Hey everybody, how you doing? Tom Barnes here, stories from the 78. As spring is upon us here in the Chicago area and around the Midwest and the rest of the country for that matter, a lot of kids going back outside, playing baseball, doing traveling teams. There's also soccer. And in particular, when your kid's good and you have to decide whether or not to play them up or put them in club leagues or run around all over the Midwest going to tournaments, you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Is this your dream? Is this your kid's dream? And my friend David Murray wrote this wonderful book called Soccer Dad. And now David is a wonderful writer. He has done things for the Chicago Tribune, the Atlantic, many other things. He is a award-winning journalist, and he wrote down his experience with his daughter Scout. I welcome him now to the 78 to talk all about it. David, how are you, man?
Doing great. Nice to be with you, Tom.
Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. We've been talking about this book for a little while. We've been emailing back and forth, and here we are finally. And that was all my fault. I will take ownership in that. And the schedule's not working out. But you're a busy guy too. You write for various platforms throughout the country. Why don't you just share a little bit of your accolades before we talk about your book, the Soccer Dad book here?
Soccer Dad. Yeah, thanks. I've been a Chicago writer for about 35 years. Spent a lot of years writing journalism for the Tribune and for Chicago Magazine and the New York Times eventually. And then realized I had a daughter who was probably smart enough that she was going to go to college, and I'd better figure out how to pay for that. And journalism wasn't going to be it. So I founded a thing called the Professional Speechwriters Association, which is I'm the only person on the planet who does this for a living. I basically convene all the speechwriters of the world, whether they work for the European Parliament or whether they work for Chevron Oil. They come to my conference every year, and I've built a kind of professional community out of that. So that's how I make some of my living, and then I write books. So writers have to hustle.
They do, but my God, you started your own conference. I don't think I've heard that one before. I've heard a lot of things. That one, I'm still letting that digest a little bit. That's fantastic, especially as from one journalist to another.
Yeah, it came to me kind of easily because I was kind of around through various circumstances. I was around this community of professional speechwriters, and they didn't have an association, and they kind of came to me and said, if you create an association, we'll come to your conference every year. And that turned into a business. So it's been good.
Is that conference in Chicago?
DC, because that's where most of the speechwriters are.
Oh, that makes sense. With all the political things happening. Well, but that's like one world you live in, right? And then, you're about 20-ish years ago, you realize, oh man, my daughter's pretty good at soccer. People are starting to tell me my daughter's pretty good at soccer. Maybe I should, not only is she smart enough to get into college, but she might be good enough to earn her way into college by way of soccer. And that is kind of the beginning, like your little introduction of the book. And the book just goes on to talk about that entire process of club sports and dealing with colleges and coaches and parents. And my kids are wonderful. They're just not gifted athletes, at least not yet. But I've coached soccer, I've coached softball, and I don't know a damn thing about soccer. And I coached soccer for like 4 years, and I love baseball.
High schoolers.
But I was coaching my kid at as soon as they can walk until about, he was like 8, and then finally some other dad was taking it over, and then the club league started, and it turned out he hated the club leagues, and then he didn't really want to play anymore. So it kind of worked out for me. Yeah. Your journey though, the complete opposite, because you had to deal with so much bullshit and questioning your own morality and your sanity. If you would just kind of get into the book, and you wanted it as like a guide for people just to hear a version of what somebody's going through that perhaps that they are going through.
Yeah, it's a self-guided tour. You go along with me through this whole journey, and you learn some things along the way. I'm not very prescriptive. Toward the end, I do kind of give some tips and some advice, but ultimately you just kind of follow along, and you watch what happens when a parent and a kid kind of get involved in the quicksand that is modern youth sports. I mean, youth sports, when I grew up, we played a lot of our sports in blue jeans, like this industry that we now have is just we don't understand it. We didn't grow up with it, so it's
Nope.
new to us, and so we're guessing at it and we're trying to figure it out. And I think I came into that thinking, okay, my kid's kind of, she's athletic. She and I like to play baseball and tennis together. Like I would, played sports with her from a very young age. And then she's doing well at this. And I'm thinking, well, this is going to be the easy part of parenting. I just have to sit on the sideline in my folding chair and watch her excel. And if she is good, she'll go far. And if she's not, she won't. Absolutely not true. And that is the approach I took, and learned a lot along the way about complacency as a parent. This system, the travel system, especially in a complicated market like Chicago. Like if you're in a tiny town somewhere in Nebraska, you probably have one choice or two choices. But in Chicago, there's multiple clubs in Chicago. There's multiple clubs, usually better clubs in the suburbs. You have to really master a really complex system and figure out how good your kid is, how much of a commitment you want your family. You want to be driving out to Oak Brook for practices every 4 times a week.
Oh.
You want your kid to be doing that. You have to kind of match all those things up, and you have to kind of do that every year because it changes every year as your kid gets older and older. So I didn't do any of that. I basically assumed she was going to be fine. I made some bad decisions. Like we kept her on a club for 2 years longer than we should have. She ended up playing up with the older girls because she was too good for the girls on her team. When that's the case, you should go find another club where she can play with kids her age. A 9-year-old playing with 11-year-olds is not right because those 11-year-olds have phones and boyfriends, and your 9-year-old doesn't, and they're an outsider. So I just did a lot of bumbling and stumbling. And there were a couple of pretty traumatic moments, as you read in the book, when we kind of discovered, oh, there's a whole other level that she needs to be at if she now wants to play in college. And that's a suburban level, and that's up in Northbrook, around in Oak Brook, and it's way better than what she's been playing. And so we had like these traumatic, rocky moments, and it's an epic story that when I go back to reread it, I had to read it for the Audible book recently. I'm like, wow, this is quite a story. It's amazing. This kid, it's kind of a miracle that she got to play Division I.
Yeah, and I remember I read a part about the book about your conversation with the coach and going to Ohio State, and you were all set to, like, you got the tour of the university, and then it rains, and then it's like this awkward conversation with the coach, and then they give you the offer, and then you're like, shit, did I do right by that offer?
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you were still questioning it to that point in your daughter's career and your career as her dad, trying to guide her to the right decision, that is it's terrifying, because it seems like it just never gets easier.
No, it gets much harder. Like I thought my work was, and it's Ohio University, not Ohio State.
I'm sorry, Ohio University.
Both schools would object horrendously, but yeah, that's where she got the main offer, and no, it got harder. Honestly, I thought I started writing this book when she went there. I thought, okay, I have an empty nester. I've got a little extra time on my hands. I'll write this story of how I got my kid from kindergarten to D1, and other parents can, learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm starting to email with her, or not email, but I'm starting to do FaceTimes and texts with her when she's at college. And that's where the job really began, because the pressure of being at college, I mean, her freshman year, she goes off there. The season starts right now. The season starts so you're trying to figure out college. You're trying to figure out friends. You're trying to figure out all that stuff. And you're already starting a season of your freshman year of college. It's incredible amount of pressure and incredible amount of intensity. So that's when the book honestly got serious. I think when you're reading the book, you get to and she had this incredible, wonderful career at Lane Tech, and she had all these wonderful high points. I make this sound like it's all horrible, but I mean, they won 3 city championships at Lane in 4 years, and the year they didn't win, it was the COVID year. And she had an incredible career there.
And by the way, the COVID was going on during all
of
this.
COVID happened in the middle of all the recruiting stuff. So it was just berserk. But I'll tell you, once she got to college, that's when the real work started. And that's when I think that when you read the book, you go, oh my gosh, there's more. And then that becomes, I think that's the most profound part of the story is, there's one chapter that basically it's like a diary that I kept without telling her at the time that I was keeping it, of
Hmm.
not every, but like all the text messages and calls that we had. And when you look at just what one season looks like in the life of a average, college ball player, I mean, I had one veteran youth sports podcaster who has kids the other day say, "Yeah, I read that chapter, and I'm not sure I want to. I'm not sure I want my kid to do that."
Yeah, I mean that is what I've heard from a lot of my friends. So, my like I was mentioning earlier, my kids kind of tailed off junior high level, right? About playing in seriously playing soccer or softball for that matter. I played through college for a couple years,
Hmm.
so as an athlete going into college and playing baseball, it became like more of a job. It wasn't nearly as fun. And then you get really like reality sets in pretty quickly. You're like, oh, well, I'm not going to be in the majors.
Right.
So do I want to try to be like an A ball, or maybe I'll get lucky and get up to triple A, maybe, but like, so I can understand that. But as a parent, I live vicariously through like my best friend who played soccer all 4 years of college, and he got a scholarship, partial scholarship to a school out east. And his kids, his son particularly, has played college since he can walk, or I'm sorry, played soccer since he could walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he traveled all over the country. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. He told me that there was a tournament for his club team
Mm.
in San Diego, California. It was $16,000 for 3 day, 5 days, 5 day tournament. He was, and I was just like listening to him, like, are you out of your damn mind? Like, what are you doing? Because he would call me from the blood donation place and platelets. He was giving his blood platelets so he can supplement the income. And he worked two full-time jobs he worked during all of that. And I was like, you're going to kill yourself, man. What are you doing? And his wife
Whatever
worked, but
scholarship
that,
to get this kid through this nonsense isn't going to even begin to pay for this.
and that's what I would like, because he's your best friend. So you're like, hey man, you got to look out for yourself. It's not like you're in your 20s, you're in your early 40s, and you are starting to put on a little weight because you probably eat terribly because you don't
Right.
sleep and all this and that. But you also don't want to be a jerk and be like, what are you doing? But you got to be their friend. But I just remember him doing that all for what? For a non-divisional ranked school to give him a full ride. So it's not even a D1, it's like a D3 like school. I mean, he is getting college paid for, but at that school, to go to your point, I can't imagine the school is a $60,000 a year school. It's more of
Right.
a maybe $8,000 to $10,000, which is still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but the amount of money he spent in all of the years that he was playing youth soccer, and then in high school, how much? I mean, he spent ungodly amounts of money on soccer. So I always wonder, like, when I listen to him now, he'll say it's worth it, but I'm like, was it? Was it worth it, like, to alienate yourself from all of your friends and family for like 10 years?
Yeah. I cannot endorse that.
Oh,
The stuff gets out of hand, and as a parent, I think one of the things that I talk about is, as a parent, I think you have to do two things if you want to be perfect at this. And nobody's perfect at it, but there was like one parent who I talk about in my book who actually did this right. He did master all the things. He figured out where all the tournaments were. He figured
mm,
out which levels of clubs there were, how good they were. He figured out how good his kid was and where she belonged. Like he did that, but he never looked like he was doing it. He was like, all the paddling was under the water, and he just looked like the most serene dad. And his daughter always felt, we're going to have an event with her, but I think she always felt that she was in charge of this whole thing. And he would give her
mm,
advice. But the kid should never be confused about whether they're more into this or their parent is. And I think,
right.
that guy's kid at some level, when the dad's giving platelets, is going, I'm not sure who is this for. And that gets complicated in families. But you don't you want that kid to be clear. This is your thing. I told Scout every single year, in college until she started telling me to shut up. Like, you can stop this at any time. We saved money for you to go to college. If this seems dumb, if this seems like not a good use of your 4 years here, this is not your job. And I told her that over and over, and it was, she loved it, and she, so that she was never going to make that decision, but I still felt important to say so.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, his son's still playing soccer for the school. Like they gave him a ride for the school, but yeah, he talks about it. But he's got to travel to go see his son now, so it's not like they play just. He's in Nebraska, so it's not like it's just in Nebraska. He's oh, I got to come to Chicago, or I'm going down to Florida, and I'm like, oh man. But I listened to that, and I've heard so many stories, and I'm sure you've seen parents get into arguments with other parents, or coaches get into arguments with other coaches or parents. So like, as far as all of that, and everybody's seen the grossness of youth sports, right? So like, who has the power in all of this? Is it the parents or is it the coaches? Because the way that my friend would talk about coaches, it was like listening to somebody try to convert you to be a Christian at like an uber Christian church, where you're just like, wow, man, like this is like almost culty vibes.
Yeah. Look, I think one of the thing that I remember most about it, and I think about the most, isn't that parents were jerky and yelling and all that. It was that they didn't talk to each other. They didn't
Really?
share things with each other. That's what I think the power of this book is that it tells everybody, hey guys, this is some stuff here is stupid. Like on the sideline, we would get an announcement next week. There's a tournament in Rockford, a 4-day tournament. We've got to drop everything and go to Rockford. Well, wait a minute. Do they think we don't have other lives? Do they think we have like $400 or the new uniform kit is $500? And I always felt like I would turn to other parents on the sideline, parents of my generation who
Uh-huh.
also didn't, just like me, weren't prepared for this, but they all were kind of obliged to act like it was all normal. And I would try to like connect with them and say, "Hey, this is dumb. We don't have to do this." And they would say, like, "What did you expect? It's travel sports." Like I was like an idiot, and it's like, so it felt lonely as a parent, like because and the other parents would never talk about their ambitions for their kids. They would never talk about all these issues. It was just, you don't complain about the money, you don't complain about the time. This is what we're doing. This is just what we're doing. And you know,
That's
I think
baffling.
parents can get more power if they will talk to each other and say, "Hey, yeah, we'll pay for this uniform kit next year, but this year, but next year maybe look for a bargain because this is ridiculous." Or actually, no, we're not going to that tournament at Rockford in Memorial Day just because you guys, got some deal with the hotel there and all that. I think the parents have no power because they don't talk to each other.
Mm.
I also think the coaches have more power than they actually know what to do with. Coaches are terrified to talk to parents for every good reason because they think parents are going to be all telling them, play my kid,
Mm-hmm.
play my kid here. Parents are obnoxious in that way, but coaches also could use to talk. They should be talking to parents about their philosophy, about what we're trying to do here with this team. There's a lot of good conversation that can be had between coaches and parents. And I'd love for coaches to read this book and be able to tell parents, look, I know what it's like to be you. I read this book. I would love for this book to be kind of a text that some parents share in common with coaches, because the club owners, those are the people that really have a lot of the power, and they're the ones making all the money. Everybody else is just down the food chain.
Yeah, that was the thing when, listening to him. And then my son did play club soccer for 2 years. And it was just so bizarre. It was very strange because, I mean, maybe I'm some of the parents did more of the is this for real kind of stuff to us,
Yeah,
because they're like, wait a minute, wait, like you said, like, wait a minute, we're not going, like I was like, absolutely not, we're not going like to this I'm not raised in David Beckham, so you
right,
know what, we're not going to this tournament in Rockford on
right.
Memorial Day weekend, we already have plans. And my son would have a meltdown. He would be like, but we gotta go, we're gonna be this and it's gonna be that. And I'm like, this is what they do to these kids. Like they almost like guilt trip them to not be part of the team. And you're like, but I'm paying thousands of dollars for this. And then you want more money for me to go to Rockford, all due respect to Rockford, but Memorial Day weekend, there's other places I want to be than Rockford or Des Moines. You know what I mean?
And this is all not even talking about the bigger issue here, which is that, one of the most redeeming facts about sports for most of the time we've had sports has been that disadvantaged people, poor people can play sports, and Cassius Clay can become Muhammad Ali, and the airport in Louisville can be named after him. Now, with this travel stuff, you have to have money to even be involved in this conversation. And I see kids playing soccer in Humboldt Park all the time. I see them playing softball. These kids and their parents could no more afford the nonsense that is basically required to get yourself into a system that would get yourself discovered by a college, that would get yourself. So I mean, that's just inequity, and that's brutal. We don't even talk about that.
Yeah, and that's sad. But I ask you this as a parent on the other side of all of this: do you believe that these kids that don't have the kind of money that travel teams allow? Because like the percentage of kids that actually make it to a D1 school that can do the travel it's so minimal. It's pennies on the dollar, right?
Even the ones that can do the travel, yeah.
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 So like, is there still that, if the kid's good enough, like the world will find out if they're like another David Beckham or,
Yeah, if the kid is
Aaron
playing David
Judge.
Beckham, maybe, but the amount of development yes, if it's David Beckham, fine. But not everybody's David Beckham, and there's only one of those. And it would be really difficult to get the kind of development that you get from. I mean, Scott was in serious soccer development from age 5 or 6, and
Man.
yeah, maybe there's some genius on a field who can, but I don't even know how they'd get discovered.
Just because of what the travel industry has done
It's
to.
a pipeline. That's why they're going to San Diego, so that the college coaches don't come to Lane Tech and watch. My kid had 6 hat tricks in a row the last 6 games of the season at Lane Tech, and the last one won him the city championship. Like, shouldn't that have just, that's at Lane Tech, shouldn't that have just like got her a college situation? But no, these colleges don't ever send their coaches to high school games. They ignore high school entirely. And so
That's sad.
It's totally sad, but it's just the pipeline is send your kid to these big showcase tournaments in San Diego or in Orlando and all these other godforsaken places, and the coaches all come there, and the coaches watch your kid play. And none of those things are in Chicago, by the way.
No, yeah. My friend who lives in Nebraska lived in Texas for a long time, and he would talk about. I just didn't know any of this, so I'm finding out through him. But the club coaches, at least in Texas, that were junior high to early high school age kids, that was their full-time job. Those coaches were paid by the amount of money that the parents paid for the club games, and they were making really good money. And I was just like, wow, I
was scared when our coach showed up in a Mercedes when our kid was like in 7th grade. The club coach is in a Mercedes. How did that happen? I'm driving an old Subaru.
Oh, how do you do it, man? Was it just a matter of like, well, I want to create this pathway for my daughter, so I'm just going to try to not screw this up and be one of the smarter people in the room as we move through this?
And the more sensible people. Like we did not go to every showcase. We went to the ones we could afford to go to that seemed sane. We didn't get involved. We didn't get her involved in the ECNL level, which is the highest level, until she was halfway. So like a year later than we probably should have. But we just weren't. Somebody came to me when she was in 8th grade and said he's taking his daughter out to Oak Brook and he's going to take her out to practices out there for 4 days a week. And all the dads were like, Oak Brook? You're going out to Oak Brook every day? And he's like, well, it's only 40 minutes if there's no traffic. We're like, why is there no traffic? Practices at 3 a.m.?
Yeah, when is there no traffic in Chicago and when is there not construction going on? Come on.
But so yes. The thing about my book, I think also that's unique about it is there are books out there that completely, criticize this system that we're having this conversation about. And there are also books that are about how to kind of game the system, and here's how you get your kid into North Carolina, and here's what you have to do. My book is kind of for parents who have to muddle through the system. Like, we know it's bullshit, but our kid is good at this, and we want to see our kid. I mean, I feel strongly that if your child is gorgeously good at something and they really want it, whether it's soccer or violin, like, pursuing that, helping them pursue that is a sacred thing to do. Like,
that's your duty as a parent. You want to put your kid in like the best position to succeed. And if it's violin, it's violin, or if it's,
a lot of people never find a passion like that in their whole lives. And so you have that 12-year-old who wants to do that. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna try to make this happen. But so my book is kind of a story of two parents. My wife is a big part of the book too, but two parents who try to do this same in an insane world.
and it definitely is an insane world. And I can talk to you about this for hours just because it's so fascinating, but I won't, because I want people to read your book, and I'll put the book up here and I'll make a little graphic on this as well. But Soccer Dad, and it's an account of your journey through this process with your daughter Scout. And she's done. She scored like, what, 10 career goals in college? Did I read that right?
More than that. I would say more than that. She did not have a prolific college goal scoring experience, but no, I would say probably more than that. Maybe something closer to 20. I mean, she had a moment in college that was as glorious as it could be. She scored the winning goal. So this is in the book, but I don't need to. I can spoil it because it happened in 2023. But there was a moment when the season looked like it was lost. OU snuck into the playoffs, got to the Final Four in the Mid-American Conference. She scored the winning goal in that game to go to the final, and that goal was on ESPN Sports Center Top 10.
That's awesome.
And then she comes back and they play the final against my alma mater, Kent State, and she scores the winning goal in that game and gets named the MVP of the tournament. So that was like, that felt like we were in some kind of movie. Like
were you like in that moment where you're like, worth it, worth all of it? It was worth it.
Yeah, I would know. If you look, there's a picture of me in that moment, and I look like I'm just stricken. Like, I can't even believe it's all happening. I have a faraway look in my eye. Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, we had some incredible, joyous moments and some really hard ones too, and that's all kind of chronicled in the book.
Yeah, and it's an honest depiction, so much so that your daughter approved every word that was written. She saw this and was like, yep, or nope to certain things maybe, but in the end, what you see here in this book is approved by Scout.
Yeah, I took her to the Skylark bar. Do you ever go to the Skylark?
Yeah.
I took her to the Skylark. I said, we're gonna have dinner and we're gonna talk through all of the changes you have to this manuscript. And she said, fine. And I thought we were gonna have like a 2-hour session. She had like 3 changes. So we just had a nice dinner. And at the end of the dinner, she said, thanks for writing it, Dad. So that was good.
Well, and that probably makes it, I mean, now that you have it like written down, it's in the universe, right? It's a thing you can hold where she can see it from your point of view. Did anything, when you were sharing all this with her, was she like, oh my Dad, I had no idea? Or did she kind of know as things were going along as her career was progressing?
She knew as things were going along. We communicated a lot. She's my only kid. She and I were joined at the hip with this. So yeah, she knew everything. What I kind of loved that she said was, she said, it's overwhelming to read about how much, especially when she was reading about the account of one season. She said it's overwhelming. In one sense, it's overwhelming to read how much I went through in that year. And then also while I'm reading it, I realized there was so much more going on that's not in the book. And I thought both those things sound good to me. Like, I'm glad the book didn't smother her experience either. So, but yeah. It's intense.
David, do you have any book signings coming up or anything else? And if anything, you have a website that you can send people to just to learn about the other things you do besides this book?
Well, the website is Writing Boots, writing-boots.com. The book page is on that website, and that's at soccerdadstory.com, soccerdadstory.com, and you can find out all about the book, and that is at that website. And then your other question was, yes, there's a book signing and a conversation about it with John Lillig, who's the dad who I said was perfect in
Ah,
there. He's interviewing me. He's also a literary guy too, and an English teacher. So he's interviewing me at City Lit Books
oh,
at 6:30 on the 18th of April. Is
awesome. Well,
that right? No, the 16th of April. The 16th of April, City Lit Books, 6:30.
16th of April, City Lit Books.
Yeah.
Be sure to check it out, everybody. Again, David, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me and for writing this down for any parent who is going through either how you went through it or just getting their feet wet in it, or who are just lost and trying to figure it out.
And Tom, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to talking to some of those parents as a result of this book. Like this is only one person's experience, but I really look forward to having it turn into a lot of people's experiences. We all talk through it. So great conversation. I really enjoyed this.